Welcome to the #1 spot health and wellness practitioners go to double their current income and turn their 10-hour work day into a 10-hour work week. Join us as we dive into the tips, tools, and tech you need to create a life and practice on your own terms. More freedom, flexibility, fulfillment, and of course, funds. It's time to build your online practice. And I'm your host, Michelle Rogers, also known as the Wealthy Woman. Be sure to subscribe for your weekly dose of education, inspiration, and action. Let's get started. If you're not motivated or driven to stretch outside your comfort zone, all of these logistics aren't going to really help you, right? They're tools, but you can only do so much with a tool, right? You have to actually use that tool how it's meant to be used. And there's a bunch I could say about that. But anywho, I have a request. In my own personal development journey, I'm working on kind of asking for what I want. And so what I want is for this next session or section to be interactive. I want to interact with you guys. This is a live summit and I really feed off of live energy. I do live workshops sometimes, and just the interaction just makes me so happy and it energizes me. So please let this be interactive. Okay. So I'm going to ask you some questions. I want you to chime in. So first off, I want to share a little bit of a personal story that I hope is going to inspire you. But I also admit the topic that I'm going to be talking about is a bit taboo because I want to talk about money. This is something that not a lot of practitioners talk about. And a lot of practitioners, I think, have like a thing with money. There's like this ick with money, or this I don't know. I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. But, from the debt we acquired while we were in school to the societal pressure we have to provide services for anyone and everyone who walks through the door, right? People who send us private messages on social media, Facebook, Instagram, or whatever, even our friends and family. That obligation. Anyone else have that friend family situation going on? It can be kind of challenging, right? I've definitely been there. It makes it super, super hard when you're the youngest, like when you're the baby and you're like trying to give them advice and they still see you as the baby. And anywho, the thing is, we are subconsciously programmed to believe that to be of service, we need to live a life of servitude, right? That we need to make all of our services accessible, that our wants, needs, desires are less important than that of our clients or our patients, right? So that if we don't constantly give, we are selfish, we are greedy, we are scammers, right? But this perceived reality is really, really far from the truth. So, ready for the first question? So, we're going to get a little bit personal here, right? But we're all friends, right? This is a safe space. But how many of you are feeling spread thin in your life, in your practice? And maybe you feel like your client care is taking a hit. Type me in the chat box. I'm curious. Anyone relate to that? It's okay to be honest. Like I said, we're all friends here. Same mission. You're not alone. Me. Yes. Oh, I just got full body chills. Yeah. You're not alone. You see this, just the power of community, by the way, the power of community, support, accountability. Whew, it's huge. And so many times we think that we're going through these hard times by ourselves. It feels really lonely, and it can feel even more lonely when we're getting into the online space because there's just this huge abyss, right? We're not part of a clinic per se. We don't kind of pass our colleagues in the hallway or in the lunchroom or whatever. So it's really important to know, so many me's, me too, so many, you're not alone, right? So it's about connecting with your community. And that being the case, if you guys, I do have a Facebook group. If you guys want to join, I'll give you the link towards the end. I don't know if Kara has the link, but I'll share it with you later. We're all in the same boat, all in the same mission. Okay. So I appreciate your honesty. Another question for you. How many of you are feeling so overwhelmed and overworked that you're not able to show up how you want for your partner or your kids or your family or your friends? Again, type me in the chat box. We're in this together, I promise. Me. Well, that one kind of went like really fast. Yes, my case again. Yeah, I feel you. Yeah, this is why we're here today. Yes, the whole reason I'm looking to start a practice. Oof. I just have like chills. Yeah, this is why we're here. This is shifting the paradigm is what we're after to really empower you as practitioners, right? Yeah. All right. So now, how many of you want to make more money and create more flexibility and freedom in your life, but you feel guilty or ashamed or embarrassed by what your patients, your clients, your colleagues, your family, friends might say if you told them, right? You're like, I want to make more money. I know I was. Yeah, me. Yeah, me. Yes. Oh, it's that stigma, right? Yes, me. More exclamation points for this one. I love it. Jennifer, Laura, awesome. Yeah. Isn't that wild? Yeah, me, I'm afraid of the reaction of my clients, right? Oof. Yes, learning to be more comfortable with money. I have a brick and mortar practice, which makes it hard. It can. Yeah, the overhead's pretty intense. Or it can be. Yeah. Oof. Thank you for your honesty. Like it's so powerful to just see that you're not alone, right? To like see that there's other people dealing with the same things that you're dealing with, other practitioners who are like on this same journey, the same mission. It's so good. Another question for you. How many of you would like to create a high ticket program or other offer that really leverages your time so that you could work less hours and provide better care for your clients or patients, but you're doubting yourself or your worth or your ability or your competence? Again, me in the chat box. Yes, me. Yeah. I'm afraid. Yes, me. All capitals, Dominique. Me, exactly. Oof. Yeah. Me, I have to learn more. Yeah. So many practitioners are like, oh, I need the extra thing. I need to learn this. I need to do this CME. I need to do this before, right? Like I need to do this before I can have something. Yeah. Imposter moments. Exactly. And that's what this is that it's imposter syndrome, right? Like keeping you reminded of, by my coach, not to call it a syndrome, right? Those imposter moments instead of imposter syndrome. I love that, Tara. That's such a great reframe. That's awesome. Yeah. I want to go back to Trisha says, I'm afraid to make the change since I make a good income now, but I want to make the change for more flexibility. Totally. Right. You want something that's more in alignment. Really not enough time either. I have a lot to share about time. You are not a victim of time, right? You are the creator. All right. Thank you for being honest. I appreciate that. All right. So one more real quick. Tell me one thing that you would do or would be doing differently in your life if you had more time, more flexibility, more freedom, and more money. It's like one thing. Think of just the first thing that comes to mind. Like, what would you be doing? What would you be doing differently if you had those things? Travel. Yeah. Impact more lives. Yeah. Living mobile, road schooling our boys. Heck yeah. Read for pleasure, right? Weekly massages, teach, take more time with people I love, invest in my own health. Oof, that is a big one. Big one. Travel. Love it. Time for exercise, help your family. Yeah. Buy a house near the kids in California. Yeah. All of the above. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. I love this. Thank you. I just so you guys know, like I can relate to so many of these because I have been there. Okay, so when I graduated from Bastyr University, I had over $300,000 of debt. And of course, being fresh out of school, I had high hopes and dreams of having a full practice, seeing back-to-back patients. And at the time, the 300K didn't really faze me. It was like it kind of didn't exist, or maybe I was just pretending it didn't exist. Maybe you can relate. But reality ended up hitting pretty freaking quick. So let me rewind just a bit. My entrepreneurial journey started back in 2012, right after graduating from Bastyr University with my master's in one hand, my doctorate in the other. And even though I landed a sought after residency in San Francisco, the one that I actually had been specifically working towards for 4 years, I made a really hard choice to decline the residency and walk away because there was just something out of alignment. Like my heart wasn't feeling it. So instead, I ended up moving to Portland, Oregon, where I spent my first 4 years as a primary care provider in the insurance paradigm. And I knew that it wasn't sustainable. I couldn't imagine doing it for another couple years, let alone 20 years. Right? The insurance paradigm is life-sucking. After those 4 years, I spent another 2 years in a cash-based private practice. This is where I started experimenting with programs and packages. And yes, it was a bit better, but there was something that was still missing for me. So during this time, so about 6 year span of time or whatever, I had a really close clinical mentor. So not a business mentor, but clinical mentor, full practice, over 200 patients. I was earning just over 6 figures, and I thought I was doing everything right. And so did everybody else, right? Like, oh, you're so successful. Oh my gosh, you're actually one of the MDs that made it happen or made it work, right? But I was exhausted. I was depleted. And in all reality, I was depressed, right? Like life was literally being sucked out of me. I was a slave to insurance companies. My patients were enmeshed in a broken medical system. They had inconsistent follow through. And I felt like my life was just passing me by. I mean, what client or patient has incentive to make sustainable, healthy change when all they're paying is their $15 copay, right? Yeah, it just doesn't happen. Needless to say, this wasn't what I thought I was signing up for when I became a naturopathic doctor and acupuncturist. And this is when the reality really hit me. If you're sitting here right now and you're in a brick and mortar, you know that a 6-figure revenue dwindles down quite a bit once you take out all the overhead costs, taxes, everything adds up, right? So considering that, plus the absolutely crippling interest rate of my student loan, which I think at the time was something like 7.25%, crazy, insane, which, obviously led to over $1,000 per month of interest alone. That's not touching the principal, right? Interest, $1,000 of interest. I think it was $1,050 of interest per month. So when I started doing the math, I started to feel my body just contract and sink and feel this overwhelming heaviness encapsulate my body. Right? Like, how was I ever going to pay this off? Like, they're literally making it impossible. Like, I felt like a slave to this debt, right? Can anyone relate here? Like, whether or not you're there right now, like, I know I'm not alone here. Like, yeah, Carrie, yes. Yeah, it's yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It can literally makes you want to just stay in bed and pull the covers over your head and just be like, what? What? Yeah, thank you. It's not a happy place. So, feeling this utter defeat mixed with anger, resentment, sadness, and almost betrayal, actually, how could Bastyr do this to me? How could Bastyr do this to their students? But seriously? Yeah, it's real. So after sulking for a while, I don't even know, like, I don't remember how long it was, but I knew that my only option was to move forward and to get really clear on what I wanted, right? Because if I just stayed in bed all day and like obsessed about this mountain of dollars and numbers and whatever, I would be paralyzed. I wouldn't do anything. I wouldn't like, one, I wouldn't be fulfilled, but I also like wouldn't be able to help anyone, right? Like no one would receive the help that they've been looking for or seeking. So, and like the frustrating part too was like what I was doing, like it should have worked. Like it should have worked by all the standards that I was being told and shown, right? But like it wasn't. So there was a huge disconnect there. And I knew that something really needed to shift. And so when I reflected on what my soul really desired, it became really clear to me, like I needed freedom. And freedom was like the big word for me. That was like the big word for me. But what it was really was like flexibility, right? It was being in charge of my time, like being in control of my time, being able to travel, like you guys are saying, like being able to not feel buried under financial stress, right? Like to not only be able to pay my bills, but to be able to have more, right? To give back, right? And the only thing for me at the time, you know, that really met that criteria was to take my practice online. And so before I did any research, before I interviewed any mentors or even like looked into who might be able to help me, I ended up referring all of my patients out. I left my brick and mortar and decided to start fresh in the span of just a couple months. And I am not going to lie. It was a disaster. Like I was going to say a roller coaster, but it was a disaster. Like I don't recommend doing it that way. And honestly, obviously, if I had to do it again, I would have done it quite differently. So when you enter the online space, it's not like clients just come rushing towards you. It's quite the opposite, actually, unless you have a strategy in place, of course. But when you have a vision, a dream, a plan, a passion, you really make it work. You pull your resources together, you hire people who can help you materialize your vision. And by doing so, you collapse timelines, like you save time. It's almost like you create time, right? And I'm a firm believer that time is our most valuable asset. You know, it's like you can get, like you can improve health, you can get more money, but like once time is lost, like you can't get that back. Like that is what you can't get back. And that's why for me, it's like, that is my most valuable asset. So since my revenue stream came to a dramatic screeching halt, I needed to really hustle my ass off, right? Because failure was not an option at all. Like I'm kind of a workhorse. I'm a Capricorn. But like failure was like that was not on the table. So I started reading books. I started taking online courses. I dove really deep into personal development, and I actually had a really big epiphany. And what that was that I realized that my debt was actually a gift. And I know that might sound absolutely insane, but my debt, this was the reframe I had, was that my debt is what allowed me to gain the knowledge, the experience, the expertise that I needed to position myself in the online space as an authority figure, right? Someone who actually knew what they were talking about. Because let's face it, there's a lot of health gurus out there giving terrible advice to thousands of followers, charging thousands of dollars, right? Any medical medium fans out there? I have a lot of opinions, you'll find. But anywho, having this realization that my debt was a gift allowed me to step out of that sort of victim consciousness, or that like life is happening to me, or this thing is happening to me, and I can't avoid it, right? That's like a victim mentality, to a more growth-oriented consciousness. So like life is happening for me, experiences are happening for me, interactions are happening for me, right? So this massive perspective shift took a ton of pressure off of me, and it essentially transformed my relationship with money. And I realized that what I had to offer was extremely valuable. I had the knowledge, I had experience, I had the expertise that was not only life-changing, but life-giving and life-saving in some situations, right? And you, right here, right now, sitting with me, you are capable of that too. You are worthy of that too. You are valuable, right? So as practitioners, so much of what we know, like so much of our knowledge, our experience, our expertise, we take for granted because we live it day in and day out, right? It's just part of our lives. We've just integrated it slowly over time, going through school, going through our own health struggles and experiences. And, I'll never forget this one time, some woman, this was years ago, some woman online was telling me about her husband's terrible constipation and asking me if I had any, simple recommendations. And I just said, have you tried a couple of tablespoons of chia seeds a day? Why not, right? Harmless. Anyways, I didn't hear from her for a couple of weeks. I didn't even think about her, honestly, but I ended up getting a message from her just profusely thanking me for helping her husband. And I was just like, what? It's just chia seeds. It's no big deal. Right. But that's just one example. You have so much to offer the world, and people are looking for you right now, desperately seeking your help. Okay. So that being said, I think it's time for practitioners to start charging what they are worth, because the thing is, people invest in what they value time and time again. I encourage you to write this down. People invest in what they value, period. Okay. Money is simply an energetic exchange of trust. Okay. Really let that sink in. Money is it's simply an energetic exchange of trust. And once we truly embody our worth and what we have to offer, everything changes. So for example, I think I mentioned this morning, once I decided to go all in on my virtual practice, I ended up making 6 figures in less than 6 months. And my clients were getting really, really great results. So this means that I was on track to double my previous year's revenue with a brick and mortar clinic, over 200 patients, working 4 8-hour days a week. But the thing is, now I had only 7 clients total, and I was working 3 4-hour days, including charting and basic admin stuff. So I was freeing up time. I was making more money, and my clients were getting amazing results. And I think they were getting such great results for 2 main reasons. One, my holistic functional lab strategy, of course, right? I've been kind of introducing you to all my functional lab people because it is a big part of my practice. And it's what I think really positioned me in the online space to create that authority. But, having that objective data to back up the subjective data has been a total game changer for me and my client follow through, which I've talked about a couple times today too. But more importantly, what was happening is, in my interactions with my clients, I was giving from overflow instead of from sustenance. And I think kind of what I mean. I saw someone in the chat box said it's you can't give from an empty cup, right? And that's exactly what that is. And when you are taken care of, when you're fully taken care of, that's when you're able to really give in a way that doesn't deplete you. Right. And so many of you said you related to feeling depleted and exhausted, right? But the thing was, I wasn't watching the clock and charging for every minute, every email, every point of contact, right? It was no longer this strictly transactional relationship, if that makes sense. Very dry, bleh. This was a totally new model. And I was working way less hours, making way more money, which led to more time and energy that I could focus on showing up for my clients and also nourishing myself. Some of you said exercising more, right? Investing in your health, right? When you have more time and energy, you're able to really fill up your own cup. right? Like become a resourced human being, right? Get that restoration that you actually need. You know, when we're fully taken care of financially, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, we have an abundance of quality care to provide our clients and our patients. And again, to be of service, you do not need to live a life of servitude. And the thing is, I know so many of you deeply desire this level of freedom and flexibility as well. That's why you're here. That's why you're considering entering the online space, right? So I want to address one last thing before I close out this session. I know some of you might still be thinking like, yeah, sure, that worked for you, but there's no way that I can create a high ticket offer. Or maybe you're judging high ticket offers. I always love judgment because it really shows us like where we're judging ourselves. Because you might think that it's too exclusive or it's not accessible to everyone. And you're totally right. Like super on point. You're right. And that's part of the beauty of it because you get to be selective with who you work with, right? It's this special energetic exchange that you get to have between you and your client, and you get to be selective. You do not have to bring in any old person who walks through your door or sends you a DM, right? Because you get to be in charge of your energy and who you interact with. We all know what like an energy vampire is, I think, right? Like someone, you like see them on your schedule and they like cause anxiety and your body kind of clenches and you're like, oh, no, I don't really like see them today or talk to them today or whatever, right? We've all had those clients and patients. And this new way of doing things, like that just simply doesn't happen. Whenever I see people on my schedule, I'm like, yes, I love her. And honestly, at this point, most of my clients are friends also, which is like a whole different thing we won't get into right now. But anywho, when we have those high caliber clients investing in you, right? They have skin in the game, meaning money, right? I found that their commitment, their follow through, their communication, and their results profoundly improve. When you invest or when your clients invest, they are invested, right? When you invest or your clients invest, they're invested. But what does this mean for people who can't afford high ticket programs? So the thing is, once you start giving from overflow instead of from sustenance, you get to choose how you give back. And in my opinion, I think choice equals freedom, right? Having options is freedom. So you'll have an abundance of time, energy, and money. So you get to use that time, energy, and money to serve people pro bono, volunteer at your favorite local spot, create a scholarship for your high ticket program, donate money to your favorite charity. The point is, again, you have the freedom to choose, right? There's not going to be any guilt or obligation because you're going to be in full alignment with what matters to you most, right? So all of that being said, what is one thing that you would do if you had an abundance of time, energy, and money right now? Would you start a nonprofit? Would you take on a certain number of pro bono clients? Would you donate to charity? Would you host free group classes? Let me know. Just first thing that pops into your mind. Let's hear it. Pay all my debts and sleep. I love that. Yes. Yes. Pure nourishment. What else? Host free group classes. Yeah. What else? Start a nonprofit. Awesome. Amazing. What else? What else? What else? Tell me. Teach. Love that. Pro bono clients, more money to my charities and free classes, workshops. Yes. Manufacture my dream product. Ooh, love that. What else? Build clinics. Yeah. Quit my day job to focus on building my practice and designing an experience for those who have walked this path and haven't been as fortunate as I have. Oof. Health center. Yeah. So as you can see, yes, help children in some way, not sure exactly, but yes, children, amazing. Yes, that's okay. Like that gets to evolve, right? It gets to be refined as we go. I love that so much. This is how we get to shift the paradigm. Like, can you see it? Can you feel it? Can you feel it? When we have practitioners who are fully taken care of, we are able to make massive ripples in the world, right? Like money magnifies. Money magnifies, meaning that if you are coming from a heart-centered place, which I have full body chills, like you all are, you all want to help, right? And helping yourself, by the way, is helping other people, right? When you're resourced, when you're well slept and nourished and taken care of, like you get to show up better for the people around you. And that creates an amazing ripple effect. Like money magnifies. So if you're coming from that heart-centered space, money is going to be a conduit for you to magnify your gifts, your love, your care, right? We need more heart-centered practitioners making more money so that more people can benefit from our gifts. It's really, really, really that simple. And again, just a reminder, the online practice that you want to create is possible. All right, that's a wrap for today. If you want the exact breakdown of how I help practitioners go from their first 5K to consistent 50K months with just 2 offers, 10 hours per week, and an audience of less than 500 people, be sure to click the link in the podcast description or head to wellthywoman.co/breakdown. To make sure you don't miss an episode, be sure to subscribe. And for daily online practice insights, follow me on Instagram at wellthywoman.co. Let's create your life of wealth, full of abundance, purpose, health, wealth, and joy.